welcome back to another episode of Market Markup. This is your girl Lance, co-founder of BH Capital Enterprises, where I teach people how to navigate the stock market, mainly through reading charts and technical analysis. Um, Quick note, technical analysis and charts are not synonymous. So, I don't typically use those names interchangeably or those terms interchangeably. A lot of people do, but I definitely want to make that distinction and dispel that myth moving forward because you can certainly use technical analysis without ever looking at a chart. Anyway, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, hit that dislike button, leave me a comment, let me know what you think. This one is by special request. Apologize for being a little delayed in getting this one out, but moving forward, if you guys want to see me do another ticker, feel free to leave it in the comments, shoot me a message. If you're connected to me on social media, hit me up there. I'm on Facebook at BH Capital Enterprises LLC, Instagram and Twitter at BHCap ENT LLC. So both of those have the same tag. And you're on my YouTube, BH Capital Enterprises LLC. So, yeah, if you have any questions, I'm happy to field them and answer, what I can and learn about what I can't. So, what else do I have to say before I move forward? Oh, yeah, hit that notification bell so that you'll know, or at least be made aware of my putting out more content and stay tuned for more dope content. So if there's anything, even if it's not, me marking up a chart, if you would like to see me do a video on some other market related topic, definitely let me know. But anyway, someone asked me a couple of weeks ago to take a look at QQQ. So I'm going to do just that. And honestly, I've never done a markup on QQQ ever. I know I've never traded it either. So this will be brand new, totally brand new. All right. So looking at the the yearly chart here. Of course, there's some obvious demand and a floor down here, but mostly for most of the time, this this chart has been in what's called phase two of the market cycle. So it remains in phase two so far. This is, on a year to year basis, so it'll take some time for us to see if it's, maybe transitioning into another phase of the market cycle, or, it could just keep going. But, so far, pretty bullish this year. Pretty bullish over the life of this ticker, either way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make notes of the closing price for 2020, just so we'll have our that marked for us moving forward as we check back over the course of the year. And do my thing here. Actually, I want to make that a little bit more. Okay. All right, so 2020 closing price 313.74, and because I like to be pretty precise or pretty accurate, I'll go in and change that. So it's boom, exactly on that at that level. Um, so some obvious demand for this year is anywhere from about 290, high 290s up to about 313. So it's about a 20 point area here that would represent, some demand on a long term basis. I'm not really going to mark that. I'm just going to, I guess make a note in my head because it's not super relevant right now unless, QQQ, unless tech or something takes a big dive and, causes QQQ to pivot and, you know, head toward the low $300 range. I wouldn't count that out, but right now I'm not seeing any technical signs of that happening on this chart. So let's move on to the monthly chart. See how that's going. All right, so the monthly chart really, looks pretty shaky. It's been kind of shaky for this year so far, especially for the first 3 months, for the first quarter. And, makes complete sense. Big tech did not do that well, during the first quarter. Just Google. But, like the likes of Apple, Facebook, et cetera, didn't do too well. Lots of tug of war here for the first 3 months, and then uh, mostly higher lows on this monthly chart. So I'm just going to change this to a trend line so I can make note of that, kind of underlying sentiment on the monthly chart. All right. So basically, this area here for me would represent some potential demand. And as you can see, every time that the price dropped in between this area, it got bought up. And even, so far for the month of June, same thing. It tested inside this area and got bought up. So that's that does not guarantee that moving forward that will be the case. But for me, I will watch for a possible transition into phase three of the market cycle. So some consolidation maybe. And I will watch to see if this level gets broken in any kind of way, at which point I would probably consider that like a change in sentiment as far as, bullishness or whatever. Maybe the markets are starting to, become a little uncertain at that point, or just taking a pause because as you can see, it's been running a pretty good amount since 2020. It's had a couple of pullbacks, but for the most part, it's more than doubled. Is that well, not quite, almost doubled since April of last year. So lots of running, pretty hard running, like pretty much most of the market last year. So that's pretty much what the sentiment is on this monthly chart. But it is definitely starting to struggle here above this 340 area. So that's definitely an area that I would make note of personally. And remember, this is not any sort of investment advice or anything like that, or a recommendation for buy or sell or endorsement for any type of stock, any ticker. I'm just doing this for fun. Um, I guess I'll leave that white. I'm gonna have to make me like a little color coding system moving forward for all of my markups and um, for each what do I want to call it? For each term that I want it to represent. So a color for demand, a color for entry, a color for exit, a color for stop, so on and so forth. You guys get the point. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna work on at some point in the near future. I'm gonna just zoom in a little bit, see if I see anything more closely. And remember, I mentioned that for this year so far, inside this 313 down to maybe 290 is an area of demand as well. So so far, most of the price action for 2021 has been between 300 and this 340 area. So um, are we breaking out here above this 340? As you can see, it kind of tested it back in February and had a nice sell off back down to that 2020 level, 2020 close. And then it tested it again in April and failed to close above that level. And then May was just a complete pivot and it, had a nice pullback there. But the Bears failed to take control once again here in May. And then so far this month, it had a nice open and is above this key area so far. So that's probably the main thing I'll be watching for as far as the month of June is concerned, is whether the price can successfully close above this level. Historically, and I mean over the past several months, we've seen that when it doesn't, that price pulls back down toward that 2020 close. So, just thinking over, sort of long term, and by long term, I mean like, maybe the next 3 to 6 months is something that I would be watching for either the price to break this 340 level or the price to fail to close above this 340 level and pull back pretty decently. So those are just two possible scenarios. I try not to really hypothesize on where the price is going to be at what point. Well, I do some of that in these markups, but what I'm trying to say is I try not to be biased. So I try to give, some opinions on either side of the play. So whether the stock is bearish, whether it's bullish, or whether it even, decides to consolidate and be range bound, which, for pretty much most of 2021, it has been range bound. So uh, right now in on the monthly chart, it has been in this phase three of the market cycle or consolidation. So we got a possible breakout here, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a breakout yet until after June and maybe into July, maybe even August, really, because just because something breaks above a key level does not mean that it just completely breaks away. We've seen retests, we've seen it completely uh, do a complete 180 and turn back the other way. So, that's why I say about, maybe 3 to 6 months. But I would give it 3 months at most to really make that determination. Um, Anything else I'm seeing on this time frame? Let's see here. Might be, yeah, we got a channel going on. Okay, so I'm just gonna bring this one down. Okay, yeah. All right, so um, I'm actually going to just do that and do the same thing up here. No, I don't want to change the color. Okay, so actually I want to make this a little bit wider. And again, I just realized I've forgotten to take my screenshots from time frame to time frame, from one time frame to the next. So we have an ascending channel right here on this chart. Um, Sorry, I'm thinking. Yeah, we got an ascending channel on this chart. This basically represents what the current sentiment is and what the sentiment has been since well, it's been in this channel for a little minute now. Looks like it's been in this channel for the most part for over a year. So for me, I'd be watching to see if price breaks out or breaks down from here, or it could consolidate. So we have all three scenarios, all three possible scenarios discussed and covered here from a technical perspective. Um, yeah, so even with a break of this trend line, it's still within the overall pattern. So really the price would have to be uh, below 340. Um, oh man, it would go above. Oh, oh gosh, I can't even see because it's off the charts. But so it would have to be pretty high in order to break this to the upside, and I just really doubt that would happen. And if it does or did, I think it would definitely retrace back inside this area, or maybe even break down. So um, any type of bullish move for the most part is probably going to retrace back in here, and it's not necessarily going to represent a change in sentiment from a technical perspective. So uh, it's kind of in this interesting spot where it could be breaking out, not only of this key level, but also maybe transitioning back to that markup phase. But like I said, we'll give it, maybe about 3 to 6 months to really make that determination. But we'll definitely know before 6 months. But I would say three, at least, to keep it on the safe side. All right, so let me just go ahead and get my screenshot here so I can have it. And let's take a look at the weekly chart and see what's going on here. In weekly chart, you can see that ascending channel a whole lot better now. And okay, so what I also see is that the movement of the price. So it looks like the volatility has been dropping in QQQ. So it's kind of starting to pinch off here, and you can see that represented by the intersection of this upper trend line and this solid white trend line as well. So pretty much every time that the price hit inside here, it headed toward this upper trend line, pivoted the other way, hit it again, and then bounced one more time, and this time it's maybe breaking out. But with this being a weekly chart, I'd say give it, a few weeks to see, if it continues to move upward or if it, kind of starts to consolidate. As you can see, this is like the third test of this area, and volume is declining. So we'll see. We'll see. Time will tell. What's as far as what's going to happen. Um, I'm not gonna, draw up a concrete plan on this until maybe I'll see something on the daily chart. Um, but those levels that I've been providing, you can. Well, I could probably develop some real deal good plans just based off the 2020 close and this 340 area. Um, let's see. If it can manage to hold this 340, this mid 340s area, then 350s will likely come within the next couple of weeks, or maybe up to 4 weeks. We could see 350. I'm not sure how fast or how slow QQQ moves. Probably, I would assume something similar to SPY, or maybe just a little more volatile than SPY, it appears. So yeah, 350 is definitely not out of the question or out of the range of possibility, um, especially when looking at a 4 week time frame. And I say 4 weeks, just to be on the safe side, quote unquote, as it could easily hit 350 this week or next week. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, so that would be one of my next levels that I will watch for is that 350 area. Um, do I see any kind of patterns? Mm, not really. Not at the moment. I don't see any patterns. Nope. Still watching the same thing on that monthly chart is all for me. Okay, let's take a look at this yearly chart. I mean, daily chart, sorry. All right, so with the daily chart, I mean, you can see what even better here, in my opinion, you can see what a good, decent swing strategy could have been, historically. As you know, we all know that, past performance doesn't guarantee any type of future results. But, for as long as the price remains in this area, it's gonna, that sentiment is being maintained. Let me go back for a second so I can get my screenshot. I don't think I made any changes, but still just want to get a picture of how it looks breaking out of that area. Okay. All right, so um, here's our demand between the solid white line and the lower dotted trend line. And then the two dotted trend lines pretty much represent most of the price action for a good year plus. So here the price is trying to break out here of above 340 again, as I said before. After a few, tests of this area, as you can see, the price has really started to pinch upward. And I just mean looking at the overall form of this price action. So one thing that I am seeing, I'm going to go down to a 1 month daily chart, is a something called a rising wedge. Actually, I'm going to go here. Yeah. So, and this is just kind of, like a pattern within the pattern. So make this a different color. What color can this be? We'll just do like a purple. Just so we'll be able to see it a lot better. All right, so rising wedge. As you can see, every test of this upper trend line, the price has failed and pulled back a decent amount. This time, the first time was it went from 333 all the way down to about 314, 316, somewhere in there. And then this time it pulled back. Oh, okay, so that's just considered the same thing. So pulled back a little bit. Then this time it went from as high as mid 330s and then pulled back to 316. My bad, my mistake. But this time it, had a decent little bounce off of the lower trend line. And now it's testing that upper trend line. So absolutely watching this area to see if this price is going to pivot down and retest this purple trend line to the downside. So if so, then there's a possibility that this week maybe the price heads back down toward this 339, 340s level. Um, Actually, let's see. I think I'm gonna go ahead and draw up like a little bullish plan, a bearish plan here. So if the price fails there, um, now this would represent a risky entry. You know what I'm saying? Um, Simply because the price may just, kind of pause here and not necessarily pull back. Um, so in order to try to account for that, then I'd be looking at a potential exit probably around here. So that's one exit. And then maybe one here. Okay. So you probably can't see that very well, but there's a little red trend line there. And then my stop would probably be somewhere slightly north of the all-time high. I would say probably up here around 346 or maybe 345 and a half. And that's just accounting for the fact that this one's a little more volatile than SPY. Um, and considering that, in my opinion, this would be a swing if I were to take this play. So that would be my stop. Um, okay, let's take a screenshot here. Minimize that. Alright, let's get rid of this drawing. Get rid of this one. And that one. And this one. Oh, no, wrong thing. Drawing. There we go. Alright, so really to the upside, in my opinion, this is getting a little overextended, but usually when a price breaks out of this type of pattern to the upside, it tends to move pretty strongly. But in my opinion, I would still like to see a slight pullback before it, does that. Especially since it's been on a nice bullish run for the most part since the 3rd of June. So since the 3rd of June, it's moved from as low as high 320s up to mid 340s. So that's a pretty decent move over the past several days. So it'd be nice toward to take a pause or something for a beat here. And in that instance, I probably consider an entry down here. So I'll do a green line for entry here. Exit. I mean, my stop, I probably put it somewhere. Let's see what that entry is at. 342. Stop I probably put somewhere in here. So right inside this demand area, or really supply area. Um, so I'm just going to do that. And then probably look for an exit if it, retested this 345 area in this instance. So that would be a potential play for me. And then my next target would probably be somewhere close to 350. So yeah, that's pretty much, it with this daily chart. I'm gonna see where those the 200 and the 50 and the 200 are chilling. All right, so it's above both moving averages, both the 50 and the 200. So nothing to see here, for real, for real. So yeah, I'm gonna take that off. Okay, so hopefully this was, informative for you guys watching. And of course, I'll be following this ticker now, just to see how it performs as it, hits those levels. Um, Hold on. If it doesn't pull back, then a potential entry would be above 345, headed to 350. So let me say that as well. And I'm actually just gonna put another trend line here just to remind myself that this is potentially another entry. All right, so there we go. Now I can take a screenshot of this one. So on this one, you got two bullish plans that I've, hypothesized. And the first one is having the price pivot downward toward this area, and jumping in calls around somewhere between 340 and really 341, 342, somewhere in there. And then, or maybe even 340, but, and then the price running back toward 345. So trying to get it at that low end and then selling it again toward that significant or historical resistance. And then the second plan potentially being just waiting for a breakout and possibly entering above 345 for a potential run toward or to 350. So yeah, that's pretty much all I can say, all I can really see at the moment with this one. Um, I'll continue to follow it. Hopefully, you guys will too. Let me know your thoughts. I hope you guys enjoyed this, learned a little something, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Market Markup.